Hi, I'm Sean Foreman, filling in for Pam Gigante. What to do about traffic and how to improve the overall transit system in Miami-Dade County has been debated by policymakers and residents for years. In 2002, voters approved a half-penny sales tax with funds going to overhaul the county's transportation system. But much of that revenue was diverted to cover maintenance costs, stalling plans. Last year, the county renewed their approach with the announcement of the Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit, or SMART plan, using dedicated corridors throughout the county for rapid buses and rail. Miami-Dade County Mayor Carlos Gimenez recently laid out his administration's fiscal priorities for the SMART plan, stepping back a bit on his commitment to rail, saying the county can't afford it, leaving many worried of more broken promises. Joining me now to give us an update on the status of the county's SMART plan is Aileen Bouclé. She's the Executive Director of Miami-Dade's Transportation Planning Organization. Aileen, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So we have a lot to talk about, but first tell me, the Transportation Planning Organization, the TPO, used to be called the MPO, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
The Metropolitan Transportation Organization. Why was it changed?
Well, this year, the organization celebrated its 40-year anniversary, a major milestone. And part of not just celebrating 40 years, but also really trying to step up our efforts with the SMART plan was looking at our name and kind of rebranding ourselves to place the emphasis and focus on our agency name on transportation. So from day one, for 40 years, the Transportation Planning Organization's mission has been to prioritize and establish transportation priorities and oversee the federal funding that comes into our area and programming of those funds. So we not only changed the name, but we also have a new logo. It's a globe with different color ribbons, if you will, that represent all the different modes of transportation, from transit to rail to seaport to pedestrian, bike, and roadway. We are a global city. We are a global gateway, and the SMART plan represents a multimodal global transportation system.
How many people serve on the committee with you to look at these plans, and where do they come from?
So our board recently grew. We have 2 new members that just joined based on population for the municipalities. There's a minimum threshold population of 50,000. Currently, we're at 25 members in total. We have all 13 Board of County Commissioners here in Miami-Dade County, and we have all the large municipalities that exceed that threshold of 50,000. We also have the Miami-Dade County School Board, Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. We have the Florida Department of Transportation is an ex officio non-voting member, but is present at all of our meetings to assist us with our functioning and planning of our projects.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to be clear, the TPO is not a Miami-Dade County organization. It's a separate entity.
Yes, we are actually a federally mandated policy board, and we establish all the transportation policies. We produce federally required documents that all metropolitan areas must submit to the federal government, primarily the long-range transportation plan, which is a 20-year horizon. In fact, we're getting ready to start our activities to start updating the 2045 long-range transportation plan. We have the short-range plan, which we call the Transportation Improvement Program, which goes out 5 years, and then we have the 2-year Unified Working Program, where all of our current studies are active and ongoing. So this board oversees that and also has authority and oversees specific federal funds that come here for transportation.
And I'm just wondering, do you know, does Broward County have a similar organization?
Yes, Broward County, Palm Beach County are our larger metropolitan urbanized area, which is the 4th largest in the nation. From Palm Beach to Miami-Dade, we're over 5.5 million. We each have this entity, and it's federally required to have that. So my counterparts in Broward and Palm Beach and myself are on the phone monthly, and we meet quarterly to make sure we're doing regional transportation, which SMART plan we say also represents a smart region, because our SMART plan, 4 of our 6 corridors cross over north and south, so it's really a regional plan.
Yes. Well, and that's been one of the complaints or criticisms in the past, that there hasn't been enough coordination throughout South Florida. And so hopefully, with you in this position and that extra communication with your counterparts, that can be alleviated. So let's talk a little bit about this SMART plan. Tell us, this was approved last year by your board, and it requires, or it calls for 6 new rail corridors around Miami-Dade County. Is that right?
Yes, so the SMART plan was unanimously adopted by our board in a strong, unified voice to expand mass transit. Priority 1 funded for environmental phase. We have 6 rapid transit corridors, which came up in the video, and augmented by what we call bus express rapid transit. So we're going to be putting express bus service on all of our limited access facilities, not just in Miami-Dade County, but again, crossing north of us to Broward.
What are the limited access facilities?
So we have in Miami-Dade County, we have the Turnpike, we have all of the MDX facilities, State Road 878, 874, we have the I-95, we have the State Road 826, 836. All of these are you're going to start seeing rapid transit dedicated lanes where we're going to have express bus so that we can start introducing mobility options to our residents here in Miami-Dade County that we don't have currently.
Okay, so Aileen, this is where I think some people are a little confused in the community about what's going on. There's the SMART plan, which is for rail, for extending trains in different areas. And then you just mentioned about light bus. My understanding is that you take a lane on a street or on the highway and dedicate that for bus. And is there a rail within the pavement itself for these buses, the rapid buses?
Sure. So excellent question. Actually, the SMART plan has 2 tiers, and they're all in priority 1. We have the 6 corridors, which we call the rapid transit corridors. The reason those are called rapid transit corridors is those are corridors that exist today that are currently vehicular traffic. There is no rapid transit available on those corridors, and if you're traveling those corridors, if you're part of the workforce commute that travels those corridors every day, you have no rapid transit option.
Right.
So the environmental documentation is currently underway in those corridors, and we're evaluating specific technologies ranging from bus rapid transit to light rail transit and also heavy rail operating at grade. So we have light rail and or the appropriate technology, because at the end of the day, each corridor will have its own solution because each corridor has its own challenges and its own demands. So we're really going to see those decisions coming out of the environmental process.
Unfortunately, we're rapidly coming to an end of our time here. So I wanted to ask you, with heavy rains, how will that impact this light rail? You know, we had flooding recently. We know that our streets get flooded often. How will you have these buses moving rapidly at low levels, low altitude?
So that's a great question, and that's a part of our environmental and preliminary engineering process where we will be looking at the resiliency of the investments that we're making and making sure that we're designing and prioritizing those elements of the projects that ensure that our investment will be there long into the future. So we work closely with the county's chief resiliency officer and following the models that have been established for future planning in our area and make sure that our investments coincide appropriately.
And funding. We're going to probably have to bring you back another day to talk about this, but briefly, estimates are from anywhere from $3 to $6 billion to accomplish this. Where do you see it, and where do we get the money?
Sure. So right now we have a range because we haven't quite finalized the technology on the corridors yet. So as we start making the decisions, we're going to start refining the cost. And last year, the SMART plan was adopted, and this year the TPO board prioritized and placed that first wave of funding commitment into the plan. They allocated $30 million a year starting fiscal year 2023 over a 30-year period, plus an additional $75 million for 3 years in advance for design and right-of-way acquisition. And that allows us to now start seeking state and federal funding partnerships to bring new federal and state transportation funds here to South Florida.
Okay, so that's the next step.
Yes, and we're currently involved in that process right now.
Perfect. Aileen, thank you for all the information, but we've got to let it go there. We'll have you back for an update sometime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aileen Bouclé, for joining us. Do you have a comment about Miami-Dade's transit plan? We want to hear from you. Send us your take. You can reach us on Facebook and Twitter at YourSouthFL. Send us a video or a comment on this topic or others. We look forward to hearing from you.